And this is a meeting, this is an assembly, and you are speaking.
And you're
speaking on camera, which is going to be on YouTube, which is on TV. So to say that we haven't provided an opportunity for you to meet and speak and assemble, you are here, you have met, you're assembled, you're speaking.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up too. I know the letter that was sent to Hartford, with all due respect, Paul, you sent it, you signed it. Did the rest of the board have input on that? Did you take a vote to see what Bob had to say, what Sean had to say? And as a consensus, say the Board of Selectmen.
This was not written up by, my position statement was something that was, I was asked what I personally think about that prospect, and I gave a position statement, and I was very careful to say, honestly, that if all of the phases were well, you probably know it better than I do, but the bottom line is I showed my depth of concern for the town, and if this deal between the state and the developer were to come to pass, I could see nothing but economic development opportunity.
Okay, but we have two other selectmen on the board who represent other factions of the town and townspeople too. So I would think of something that's so controversial and hot like that, wouldn't it be a good idea for you to discuss it and to take a vote, and then a letter spearheaded? 2 out of the 3 selectmen voted they were in favor for this, or unanimously we did.
It was not, but see, Tanya, the point that, and forgive me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the point is that it was not a town arrangement. It was something between the state and the developer.
Right, but it was your consensus, it was your personal thought. But I'm saying we operate with a board, and I guess I would like to see more input from the 2nd and 3rd selectmen on an issue as big as this, so you're not holding the bag, so you're not on the hot seat. You know, you fall on these guys. See, what did we all say? What did we all think?
Well, I guess I don't call these guys for every time I'm asked a question.
Well, that's a big one.
Well, not at the time it wasn't. At the time it was just the question that was had when they were. It was even an infant proposal. And I never went to Hartford to testify, and I never lobbied, and I never came up, and I never said one more thing, in support other than that simple position.
But perhaps the state looked at it like, okay, it's coming from the first selectman, therefore the whole town is behind it, and that, I think that's what some of the concern is about.
Oh no. So let's John. Bob. Yes, sir.
Sorry. Paul Rensaber from Haddam. Agreeing to some degree with the former speaker that I really haven't shown any particular care one way or the other about the swap. It's more the back room look of it that bothers me. And one of the things that seems to be missing here every time you state that you simply sent a letter is that, unfortunately, I wish I had the words with me, but every article I've read where it says the DEP approved and the governor signed because, I'm not sure it uses the words because, but it implies because the first selectman of the town said it was a good idea. Every single article reads that way. It says DEP says yes, governor says yes, because first selectman says good.
I haven't seen any of those articles.
Well, that's the way it reads, and you know, I'll see if I can dig one up.
That'd be really interesting.
But the point is that is what sort of gives it the bad taste, if you will, because we'd like that rescinded. Who cares about what the state does? It's state land that they can do what they want. People can sue over whether or not the deeded way that was conveyed is appropriate or not. The problem is that when they signed that into law, a part of it was based on what you said. That's the real issue, in my mind. And certainly, when it comes time for me to vote again, that's going to be the issue in my mind, is that you were unwilling to restate that to the fact that your interest is in the economic stature of the town, not in representing what the townspeople are saying about it.
Yeah, and you might want to add to that that my interest is also in the fiscal and well-being of the town. And it's really my charge to do as much as I can to provide for the well-being of the town. Yes, Joe? Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just, when a selectman makes a position like he did, how does he come back out? What if 200 people in his town wanted that swap? Now he's going against 200 people, or half the town that wanted it. You had 800 people there, there's 7,000 people in town. You know, so he's taking a fine line, I think, in my mind, my opinion, that yes, he's looking out for the taxpayers in this town, trying to, what little land we have left, to try to help out, like Paul mentioned, the elderly and even young taxpayers that can't get the high-paying jobs anymore. So how do you satisfy? Now he resends, let's say, how does he resend that letter now? The land swap is dead. In your mind, how does he come out and say, oh, I made a mistake? You're asking it.
I know I'm not saying that, and if you were at the last meeting when I spoke, I in fact said, why not let, before it was killed, why not let somebody from Norwich buy the land, and we'll end up with something even better and a better development person in there. My point is that it's being used to convey the idea that some large group of people in Haddam said, this is a wonderful thing to do. That's the way that the governor and the DEP used that letter. And all I'm saying is that it would be wonderful to have clarification of that letter to indicate that what we really are talking about is what's good for the economic development in Haddam, not necessarily what the town wants. The town's people.
I have another point.
Yes.
Good. I don't know, maybe you can work something out with a resolution at a board meeting, executive session, come up with a letter and try to make this all magically go away so we can move on. Mrs. Botel situation, you said you had a meeting next week?
There continues to be meetings at the DEP with regard to what can be,
Did they raise that issue? Can she go to that meeting herself and be there?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Because that might be something you can follow up with.
We can talk about it, but it's not specifically about her property. It's about the whole area.
Maybe she can be present there and.
I don't know if it's a public meeting, but I'm really glad to look into it for her.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All aboard. A couple comments and a couple questions. I'll try to keep it brief if I could.
Sure.
First, I want to thank you for maintaining the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the meetings. And I want to thank you for stating, thank God, swap is over. I thought that was pretty good. My question to the board, or probably yourself more specific, is what is Town Hall doing at this time, now that we have the real numbers, to get to the bottom of the ridiculous tax evaluation on the riverfront property, where it was dropped over $1 million. And nobody else in town that I can speak of ever had a 71% tax evaluation.
That's a really interesting issue. We went, as you know, we had a revaluation done in 2010. And a revaluation is a clearing mechanism where it goes back and it corrects all the mistakes that have been made in the past. It corrects all of the inaccuracies, and it goes through and it identifies this table as what it should be, a table. Okay, and that's what a revaluation does.
Understood.
Okay, now, there were several pieces of property on the revaluation that went up and down, some significantly, some not. The pilot program, as you know, which is a program from the state which provides a grant to 169 towns, based on the fact that they have land in those towns and the town is not collecting full taxes on those. There's about almost $74 million in the kitty for that, and there's 169 towns. And the state is always fluctuates as to whether they're going to continue it or not continue it, cut it, not cut it. This year they were convinced they were going to stay with the 73 million and appropriated it accordingly to 169 towns based on the total values that the town had, and also some other things in the formula, which it's very difficult to determine what OPM puts in there, but it's not just a mathematical formula with regard to the number.
Yeah, not to interrupt, I mean,
my point is going to be though, on that property that you're talking about, on that 17-acre property, it is zoned industrial. okay? And it's just basic, flat, industrial land. The way that the state appraisal worked on it was on its potential use. Now, we cannot appraise a piece of property on its potential use unless there are permits out there, unless there is something to indicate that it is being developed. Okay, otherwise it's just flat, open space or industrial.
I would think industrial land in this town would be at a premium, like you say, that's probably last spot we have left.
The state uses highest industrial, yeah.
Okay, I won't care, I won't
Yeah,
make
so,
that.
yeah.
I want to know if that's something you're looking into, because I really
We
feel
have
it's
looked
something
into it, yeah, we
should
looked
be looked into.
Yeah, we
and
looked into
see
it
if we got
already.
our money's worth from the people who did the
Yeah.
evaluation, and how many other mistakes might have been made out there. As far as a couple other comments.
We did look into that. As a matter of fact, we were FOI'd on that last year, and the records, the assessor's records were made available to Patch. We were, again, requested to look at it again this year. I re-looked at it again with the assessor, and once again, the same things. I have no idea what the state is doing or why they're doing it, but our numbers are correct.
Right. Okay, and just on a couple of comments that were made earlier, not to align myself with the loonies on either side of the swamp. The CPPL, I've read everything they put out, it's all over the place. I never saw anything where they said the land was donated, or any pictures that would mislead people to think that that was riverfront property whatsoever. I saw Steve Rocco's PowerPoint presentation several times.
It does open up the river.
Several times I saw Steve's presentation
It's a view
where
of
he
the
had
property.
pictures of the DOT, matter of fact, you saw that presentation a couple times, where he had pictures of the DOT garage included with what they were doing, and then their dream image of what was supposed to happen in Fantasyland, showing the parking lot and the river cruise boat docks, which are leased to somebody else for at least the next 10 years, as part of what their thing was going to be. So if anybody was misleading about anything, it was probably Mr. Rocco, who the River House properties in the past year have separated themselves from, at least in the headlines. And I just think there's a lot of false information out there, and I don't think any of that was coming from the people that were fighting the swap. I didn't see any of that anyway, and I just like to go on and say that.
Any other comments?
I was just going to say, I have a copy of the flyer that was
I've seen the
presented.
flyer, what's misleading about it, sir?
Okay, 2/3 of the,
The picture's taken from the river, can you see that?
9/10 of the picture is taken here. 1/10 of it is the land, it's up
Right,
here.
okay.
But this is what you see when you look at it, is the river.
Right, the picture's
most
taken from the
prominent
river.
feature of it.
That's the feature of the whole deal,
And
is the river.
it was, the picture is misleading to many people who began to believe that this was the riverfront property.
You don't see the river from there, do you?
Sorry?
You don't see the river from that property, do you?
Oh, you do see the river from the
Okay.
property. You can see the river from hills very high in this town.
Okay.
But to take the picture and have 9/10 of the picture that is displayed to be, in fact, probably more than 9/10 of it, to show river and land abutting the river, and 1/10 of it, at best, showing, if you really stretched and looked hard, you might be able to see some of the land that was being discussed in the swap.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say, as a former real estate broker, 32 years in Connecticut, looking at 17 acres overlooking the river, not on the river, not access, but overlooking, you know it is far more valuable than 87 acres that have already been logged inland, even though it's next to the forest. So, why didn't the DEEP do the appraisals immediately?
Oh, I can't,
And make this public and get it off?
I can't agree with you more. I cannot
It
agree
was
with you more.
appalling, and the lack of transparency is what has upset so
Well,
many people.
I got a lesson on that. I asked that same question, and the answer that I got, if I could paraphrase it correctly, is that if the arrangement went through an administrative function with the DEEP by itself, then all of that would have been done right away. It went through a legislative process which was built into several items that were going to be part of the bill, and as a result, the details, if you will, were left to confirmation when it went through the, but I can't agree with you more. I was always under the impression, frankly, and I was wrong too, that all of these things were going to be nailed down ahead of time. You know, that if all of the variables were equal and it was a good deal, it was going to be a good deal. So I can't agree with you more. I really can't.
Well, that's the problem. We don't want to have something like that happen again. Things come up. We still have this huge problem in Haddam of the sand pit. We have so many problems. Tylerville. Everything has to be out in the open.
We've tried our best to make sure that all of our meetings and all of our efforts, we have been above board and have been as transparent as we possibly can be. I mean, there is conjecture, there's concern, there are things that you know are inferred via the publications or from mouth to mouth or whatever it may be. All I know is we are doing the best to do the best for the town and being as open as we can. We've had many more meetings than any of our past selectmen have ever had. And you know, and frankly, we're trying very hard to do exactly what you're suggesting. Yes, sir.
Do you know how much to date? Oh, excuse me. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, you know, I've been on town committees for coming on 10 years. Board of Selectmen twice, Board of Finance. I have never been in any meeting that wasn't publicized, published, open to the public and recorded. Not a word I've ever said hasn't been on tape or on camera and not open to the public and publicized, ever. Any committee I've been on.
Mary Ann Gilman from Cedar Lake Road. What is true is that a lot of times it goes into executive session where the public cannot be heard, where we cannot hear what's going on, where we never learn what went on.
The only issues that go in executive session are wage.
And legal.
And legal.
And legal.
But wouldn't it be wise, after listening to the legal message, that you come to a conclusion, that you publish in minutes so that the public can understand what actually happened?
We do. Whenever we go in executive session,
No, you don't.
we come out of executive session, we will reinstate the meeting and put our conclusions on the agenda.
You don't all the time. No, you don't all the time, unfortunately.
I have.
I'd still like to know whatever happened to the suit that we had in the wetlands down against WFS. I'm still waiting to hear about that.
I was going to try to address that. Most of the situations that everybody's bringing up, Mrs. Botel and you, are all tied up in legalities. I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, how much has the town spent so far on legal fees to try to stop the sand pit or stop what's going on? It's so tied up, they can't do anything as a board because
We've been waiting for 4 years. They have these goes down that road and make them fix it like they were supposed to do. 4 years.
it's tied up in court.
Yeah.
We have to get to the point where they have a suit.
Why then doesn't our lawyer make some motions and get things
There's a
going?
fight in the bowling alley in back, and I can't hear what's going on in this room.
Okay, thank you, okay. All right, with regard to the legal question, we are between the legal fees, the engineering fees, the consultant fees, the tax abatements, and everything. By the time the clock started on this thing, we're close to $200,000.
Just with the WFS.
Yes.
$200,000 to try to stop it, and you can't ask them to do any more than that because it's tied up in court.
But why doesn't our lawyer make a few motions and get things going?
Okay, I don't want to get too deeply into it because it is sort of a legal thing that's tied up, but I will say this though. We were summoned a few weeks ago, to discuss the matter in chambers with the appellate court. As you know, we're appealing the lower decisions. And at that appellate, we spent 5 hours with the appellate judge, and we are making progress, I promise you.
It's been a whole year already.
It's been many years.
A whole year for the appellate hearing.
That's how the courts work. I mean, you know, I know that's a terrible thing to have to say, but that's how they work. I mean, in some cases, it will
It's
go
up
even longer.
to our lawyer to make some motions to get things rolling.
Okay, well, we're doing the best we can on that, really. Okay, Liz.
Just,
Yes.
Liz Basasi, Lake Gavin, Hingham, and Bob, Sean, and Paul, I know this gentleman asked the question about the assessment, but I don't understand your answer.
Mhm.
So it seems to me that the property was valued over $1 million and then it dropped down like to 1/10 of the original price, I think?
No,
And-
it's I believe it's 380,000 or something like that.
Okay, but originally I think it dropped to 1/10 of the price, and I think it was raised back to 300,000.
Yes, there was error in the coding.
So right now, the value, I think right now, it's, what our town is saying it's worth is, the appraised value that our town is stating is 25% of the appraised value that 2 other appraisers gave, and I
Something
don't,
like that, yeah.
and I'm wondering how that's gonna be resolved.
Okay, well, it's not, because our numbers are correct. I don't know what the state did, I don't know.
But
what they
are you
did.
looking into why there's
I have looked into it. Our numbers are correct.
do you think it's worth that the town maybe talks to a second appraiser? Because
No, this was, you have the danger of throwing out the entire revaluation. We spent $250,000 for
But
evaluation.
75% off,
They're wrong, in my opinion.
so
the
those
state-
2 appraisers in
in
the
my
state are
opinion,
wrong.
they're wrong
I just
from
want to make
our-
sure you're saying they're
They're wrong
wrong.
from our perspective. From our perspective, we have assessed it based on what it is.
But isn't an appraisal no matter
No,
what?
No. They appraised it on its best possible use. And they appraised it as though it was going to be something terrific there.
And we're appraising it based as though it's industrial development. So you're saying if an industrial site, let's say,
We're saying it's raw industrial land.
so let's say that some corporation goes down and builds right there.
Mhm. That's
And
different.
that all they would pay is,
No, that's different. That's different. They came in and there were a permit, and then we went through a public hearing, and everyone agreed that they wanted to see a tin factory down there in that industrial use, okay? It would be taxed accordingly. It would be substantially higher. But right now, it is basic, flat, unapproved, semi-contaminated sand industrial land. And that's.
okay, I still don't really understand that. I know that
I'll tell you what,
my neighbor has a house that has no view of the river except from their stairway, from the window in their stairway, and they're assessed with a river view of the reservoir. So, but you're saying that property doesn't,
Not as long as there's nothing on it. If your neighbor has a house, okay, there's something there. There's nothing on that land at all. It's just flat industrial land. What I would recommend, if you have a chance, stop by the office and talk to the assessor, and she'll go through the map with you. The map's, public information, and she'll show you exactly, what it is. Now, as far as what the state did what they did. I don't know. I've never seen the appraisal. I've always maintained that it's their deal.
well, how was that land originally assessed at a much higher rate then?
It was done off the purchase price of it way back, and that was wrong. It shouldn't have been, done on that basis. Okay, but they bought the thing for about $1.3 million.
Okay, I'm having a problem understanding this, but I'll try to
Yeah,
investigate on my own.
come in and see the assessor, and she'll go through the cards with you, and she'll show you exactly what the progression was since the land was purchased by the state for $1.350 million back whenever they bought it.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused too, because it was purchased for $1,350,000.
Yes, I think that's the number.
In 2003, and then the town of Haddam appraised it in 2005 to $1,550,000. And then in 2010, we dropped it originally to 171, and then they upped it to a little bit 300, so it
I
just
think there was
seems-
something in between, if I'm not
But
mistaken.
no, there wasn't any.
There wasn't, okay. I
No,
thought there was
2005
it was
was
900,000.
1,000,005, so I don't know what the town of Haddam used to appraise of the vacant contaminated land to get 1.5 million.
Well, we had several pilot properties that were reduced. The Ranger Road property was reduced dramatically. It was reduced from 7 million to 3 million.
But we lose a lot of money from the
No, you
state
don't.
through the
No,
pilot
you don't. See,
program.
that's the thing.
you know?
That's the thing to see. You don't lose a lot of money from the state because all of this goes into one big pot. It's all distributed out by the other 169 towns. I would venture to say, at the end of the day, difference between our pilot numbers last year or before 2010 and our pilot numbers this time, we'd probably lose in income maybe $10,000. Yeah.
The pilot program's voluntary.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay us.
No, they don't have to pay us anything. I know it.
Hi, Gail Reynolds from Kenwood Road. say, beware of the highest appraisal, because we did do that with Connecticut Yankee a long time ago, and it didn't turn out very well for us. And I'd also, listening to everything, I'd just like to say that I don't think that there are as many absolutes as I've heard, and also that I don't think that the town of Haddam, like any other town, is a monolith. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay.
Any more comments?
Any more comments? Well, listen, we really would like to thank you for being here tonight and for being open, candid, and concerned about the town and about your issue. And you're on both sides. You've got great passion. We need passion in the town, and we will continue to do everything we can to support you. And we appreciate your being here. So, I'll make a motion. Thank you.